UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Are they extraterrestrial, interdimensional, time travelers in origin, or are they simply a result of top-secret military projects, false flag alien invasions, PSYOP, drones, or other human-made aircraft? Join the discussion now on UAP Crossfire.
Well, good evening and welcome to another fantastic show of UAP Crossfire. Tonight it is the Padre, Dan Carlson, and myself. Our other two hombres are otherwise occupied. One's not feeling well, and the other is indisposed, as they would say in the classical English upstairs, downstairs kind of show. He is not able to attend to duties tonight, but we wish them both well, and they're missed. Also, I'd like to start out, as I normally try to end the shows in the old days, but we always kind of run up to the end. God's peace that surpasses all knowledge and understanding. I am very pleased tonight. We have a special guest that's approached us, and it's been fun trying to get everything together for him. And then behind the scenes, our producer, Bill Skywatcher, is basically throwing the pizza pies into the sky and trying to keep all the plates spinning in the background, doing a fantastic job. Padre, how are you? And what's new in your neck of the woods?
Well, fall is late in coming to the northern Black Hills of South Dakota. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous string of weather we've had here. Bright, perfectly clear skies during the day, same at night, and a big old beautiful moon lighting up the landscape is just wonderful. And we're looking forward to tonight's show. It's going to, I think, provide us with some unique and different perspectives on the UAP topic.
I think so as well. Speaking of the moon, the harvest moon, it was a supermoon, and we have two more supermoons next month in November and December will be supermoons as well. The moon was so bright the night before the supermoon. When I head out to get to the base, it's quite dark now because of the change in the hours and the latitude shift. And I was able to walk up onto some young deer that were in my yard eating the pears off the tree.
Uh-oh.
And I didn't actually get to touch them because I kind of wanted to swat them in the six to get them to get moving. They did spot me. And then they realized I was an old man, and they didn't run too far from me. They just ran to the fence. So I had to up the game a little bit, go to the vehicle, put on the lights. Once they saw the lights, they knew I was serious. When I came back in the yard, they hopped over the fence. So it's been beautiful. We're getting color here, and we are going to probably have our first freeze tonight here in New England. So it's kicking in a big way. Well, our guest, let's bring him on, please, is Samuel Chong. Samuel is a very, very interesting man. A man, I would say, of what we used to say in the old world, a Renaissance man of sorts. He has extensive world experience, education, and traveling. He is a lawyer. He is a therapist. I think he is probably someone you would say is a man of letters as well as philosophy, and definitely has some science chops to back it up as well. I think it's going to be very interesting to talk with him tonight. I am going to give a little bit of a read into how we met, but Samuel approached us at the show and asked us if we would be interested. He's a lawyer in California, as I said. He also functions as a certified court interpreter in Chinese, and he has been on a few other shows. He translated a very interesting book for Asia. Is that the fair way to say that, Samuel?
Yeah.
And your markets were Japan as well as China, both Taiwan and the mainland, correct?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
And we have a lot to cover on this translation, but let's talk a little bit about your background before we dive into it. How did you get into this particular subject? How did you find this book? Were you interested before you found the book? And describe, because I want to make sure I hear it once from you, because I'm going to really Thiaoouba Prophecy is about as close as I could get to it. Even AI wasn't helping me on the pronunciation, so you're going to have to work with me. Little Gaijin situation here with me for sure.
It's the Thiaoouba Prophecy.
Thiaoouba Prophecy?
Thiaoouba Prophecy.
Thiaoouba. Okay. Thiaoouba. Okay. By the end of the show, if you work with me and you're patient and you look like you have a nice, patient, kind face, we might have that worked out. So how did you get involved with this?
I was a very curious person when I was in China. Back then, China was fairly open in allowing news about UFOs or UAPs to be published in major magazines or newspapers over there. So I was very interested in finding out what the ETs knew about us, because I was thinking if they could come and visit us, they must have advanced technologies and knowledge. We can just learn from them to progress at a much faster pace, to learn from the masters. So I was intentionally and subconsciously looking for books written by ET contactees. After I came to the US, I read so many books, but the other books all contained vague information. But this book specifically, Thiaoouba Prophecy, contains specific verifiable information that I was able to conduct additional investigation. I have a very logical mind, and I think this book is a very unique book.
So you made a remark that caught my attention. You were in China when things were more open. Can you be a little bit more specific for the timeline and when you came to the United States? Because you spent time in Europe for school, and I'm expecting part of your life travel through there. Can you give a little of that background?
Yes, I was born in China in 1978. When I was in elementary school in the 80s, China was fairly open until the early 90s as well. And then after the Falun Gong incident, the government really didn't allow anything about the human ESP or Qigong practice or UAP UFO news to be published anymore. So after the late 1990s, the government had a very strict control on what could be published in China. But I was in Europe at that time in the year 1999 to the year 2001 in the UK and Spain, and getting my master's degree over there.
Excellent. And then you migrated to the United States from there? Is that what happened?
Actually, I came to the US in 1993. And
then from there, you went to Europe then?
Yes, that's right.
Excellent. Well, I was just trying to get that because that was one of the few things we actually met up on LinkedIn. Don't say my name because Commander Cobra uses his very special powers of cover here on the show. We didn't get a chance to actually speak, but we will get caught up on LinkedIn eventually. And I was just trying to trace out your career. Very impressive. Before I turn it over to the Padre, I wanted to kind of open up with one particular part. Often we find a book or a writer or someone's testimonial that links up to us in a way that makes us say something very important happened to this person, or they have discovered something. What is it about this book and this prophecy that you resonated with so strongly?
Well, in the very beginning, when I was halfway through the book, I thought it was a science fiction because the information contained in the book is so far out. But then after I read about the chapter on who is Christ, I was convinced that everything in the book has to be true because, there are a lot of connections to the ancient scriptures in the Bible. And I was able to understand everything that I had questions about the Bible. And for example, some people say that Jesus went to India. And there was also a question for me, was that when Christ, after he met his mother, after he began preaching, he did not call his mother mother. He called his mother woman. Why was that? Why is that? Because I think in order to call someone like that you're familiar with, you should be respectful. You shouldn't just call your mother like woman. And actually, I'm a linguist as well. Not a single language in the world in which someone would call his or her mother a woman. It's just absurd to me. But this book actually connects all the dots, explaining what really happened to Jesus and who Christ was. Actually, that's a very shocking news. The author of the book was actually a farmer in Australia. He didn't have a lot of education. He didn't even know how to type on computer, but he wrote a lot of specific facts that I was able to verify using modern technologies and also to do a lot of cross-referencing. For example, there's a detail in the book that talks about the tomb of Jesus in Japan. So if you do a search, you're going to find out that there's a tomb in Shingo Village, Japan, that people can still visit. That to me seems to be very, very interesting because he never traveled to Japan. And he described in the book specific details of what the tomb looks like and also how the tomb came about. So to me, that's just incredible. I mean, the book was written back in 1989, got it published in 1993. There was no internet back then in Australia for a farmer.
Right.
So that's just something incredible.
Interesting. Padre, go ahead and jump in.
Okay. The references in the book to Jesus as being an alien, it's not the first time that I've heard that. Samuel, I am a pastor. I lead a church here in the northern Black Hills of South Dakota. And my understanding of the text there, where Jesus addresses his mother as woman, in the Greek language, from whence we get our most of our translations of the Gospels, it's not woman in a disrespectful term. I forget how to pronounce the Greek word, but it's the same way someone, say in England, might say, "My dear lady." It's all in the tone of voice. If it's meant as a cut or sarcastic, "My dear lady, how dare you say something?" And it's something, an endearing sort of a term. So linguistically, I think that needs to be brought up. But getting now back to your story, have you personally ever seen a UFO or had an experience that you couldn't explain?
No, I have not, even though I have some dreams about the cycles of life. But I'm a very logical person. I believe that there are ETs. I believe there are UFOs and UAPs that come and visit us. I have not personally seen one yet.
The prevailing views seem to be shifting in the UFO community. When I was growing up, it was all about visitors from other planets or other galaxies, extraterrestrials as being from space. Now there seems to be a growing population in UFO research who believe that they are interdimensional beings. Do you have any theory on that?
Well, I think they can do a lot of interdimensional communications with us and also amongst themselves. I think if they choose to travel physically, they can do so as well. But remember, there are different kinds of ETs in the universe, not just the ones whose UAPs or UFOs crashed on Earth. There are also ETs whose technologies are so far advanced that their spacecraft would never crash on Earth. So those ETs come and visit us from time to time, and also throughout history in the ancient past, as documented in a lot of the ancient scriptures in different cultures as well. So I think we need to keep in mind that there are different levels of advancements amongst the ETs as well. I think there are ETs who come and visit us physically.
Do you think that there is a multiverse, that there are a number of different parallel universes or dimensions where portals open that allow them to migrate between the two?
I believe there are parallel universes. Actually, in the book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, it actually explains how they come here using a parallel universe as a portal or warp to come in and get out of Earth, because that way they can hide themselves. So this actually coincides with some of the observers of UFOs or UAPs. They frequently see that the UFOs come in or appear or disappear at a certain location in space or in the sky. So that actually is an evidence that they use the portals to come in and to appear in front of us.
So they're coming through the front door, so to speak.
Yes.
What do you think of the reports we're hearing of reverse engineering crashed spacecraft? We've had those ever since the Roswell incident. Do you know, has there ever been anything similar in China or the Far East that you're aware of a story similar to Roswell?
Well, there are certainly UFOs that crashed in China, but I do not have first-hand knowledge about reverse engineering activities in China. I don't have any idea on that. However, there are a lot of sightings in China of UFOs in which the military was actually quite alerted. They were actually prepared to launch like military attacks on the UFOs when the UFOs enter into their space or territory. But they later found out that they were not hostile to the Chinese. They were also not espionage vehicles of other governments. So this is what they found out in the 1990s, according to Dr. Sun, a ufologist in China.
Interesting.
The Chinese people on the street, we often don't get their opinion or hear anything from them. The average Chinese person, say in Beijing, what do you think that they believe about UFOs? Or have you had conversations with just ordinary Chinese people? Do they believe we're being visited?
Yes, I mean, it really depends on the kind of Chinese people that you talk to. There are Chinese people who are brainwashed by modern science that don't believe anything out of the textbooks. There are also more down-to-earth Chinese people who believe in the ancient stories or folklores of Chinese culture. And those people tend to believe that there are ETs that come and visit us, because in the ancient Chinese history, there are stories of people who did not appear like human beings that came to the Chinese people and to really assist them in some of their endeavors. I think those stories are actually engraved in people's minds of Chinese down-to-earth people. There are also people who are just like medical doctors who really don't believe anything out of the ordinary.
You mentioned these ancient stories, and here on this program, we're fascinated by those. We often look back to pre-world flood potential for civilizations at that time, and things that may be hidden from us that are being passed down. What time frame are we talking about that these stories originally came into being? Are they 5,000 years old, 10,000 or older?
It's actually more than 10,000 years. If you read the Chinese medical texts, it talks about the ancient times. People used to live like 1,000 years old, and but it talks about later on people's longevity was reduced due to their not really living in harmonies of nature. So there are a lot of stories of ancient times that actually are pretty significant.
Are they published in English anywhere?
Yes, they're published in English.
Okay. Well, after the show, I want to learn where I can get some of those, because I think that'd be fascinating to read. Commander, your turn.
Well, there is a lot of stuff to unpack. So I want to unpack probably one of the more interesting statements that you've published. But I want to start with, have you had contact with the author of the book that you have translated?
Yes, I have. Actually, I met him twice, each time for 5 days, when he was living in Vietnam at that time. The reason for me to track him down was to find out what else he knew but couldn't write in the book. Because in the postscript, he said he knew, he actually knew more incredible things, but he was told not to write that in the book because we were far from understanding them. That's the whole reason for me to track him down, because the book actually contains a lot of interesting knowledge or facts related to theology, related to ancient civilizations, related to the health of people, and supernatural abilities or psychic abilities such as telepathy, levitation, healing all the different diseases, materializing objects, and how to really live a better life, including reincarnation, as well as the dangers on Earth. For example, it talks about the four dangers on Earth. Number one being money. Number two, politicians. Number three, journalists and drugs. And number four, religions. We should be spiritual, but not religious, because according to the book, there are Catholic Church Council meetings. And actually, the book is very specific. It listed the four Catholic Church Council meetings that intentionally distorted the original meanings of the ancient scriptures. That actually shocked me. And I did some research. Indeed, there are a lot of debates of theological principles in the four Catholic Church Council meetings that actually resulted in leading people to believe one way or another.
Well, I can't argue with the list of what to be worried about. I would think on any average day, I would agree with that list. I think it's interesting that journalism and drugs are in the same slot. I'll leave that for greater minds to delve into maybe as we go along later. So before we get into more specific areas, one of the things that I found most interesting, attractive, if I could use that word, Dan, Chris, Don, the other two hosts, we have spent, I would say, a good part of the last year and a half. This discussion point comes up, and it's the interconnected, the unified field of all of the things you just talked about that come together. It's just not UFO or UAP. And then in another day, we're going to talk about ghosts and spirits. And another one, we're going to talk about energy and physics. And one of the interesting things that you said a little bit earlier was about the science. And I would have thrown that into the list that the author used, to things to be worried about, because the distortions that have happened around science, especially in the last decade, I think you would agree that we've probably had some very, very difficult periods that we've gone through in the name of science, like we have just about for every other major function. You seem to be, I would say, to use the words, at peace or very comfortable understanding this everything connected relationship, that there are plenty of crossover areas. Am I correct in that, assigning that?
Yes, that's correct.
So why do you think we have such difficulty, and it's kind of a leading question, when you have various groups that just will not entertain anything but the particular area they're in? Meaning, we have talked endlessly on the show, and we've had a number of people over the years where we've had cryptids appear with UAP/UFO activity. We have had things that almost seemed to be ghostly paranormal kind of activity. Now, again, with UFO, UAP activity. You spent some time in England. I'd say out of all the European countries, there just doesn't seem to be a lot of surprise when you talk to someone from the UK about ghosts or buildings that are haunted. It's just, it's culturally kind of interwoven. And my time around different Asian communities, that's kind of a shared thing. Obviously, I would say it's probably a little bit different in the spiritual alignment because of religious practices or beliefs. In Japan, the putting in of something ceremonial to release the spirit so it can go into the sky or go to the next part. We see that in a lot of our Native American cultures as well. The different types of observances to go around relatives that have passed and the connection to that. With that said, why do you think there is such a schism in the world? Is it intentional, or is it just because we've gotten a little bit arrogant in our belief that we have got things figured out?
I think the media has a lot to do with it, and also the number one danger, which is money. Because if you really think about it, if companies want to profit themselves, they really want to commercialize everything. For example, if there's a way to treat cancer at very low cost, they wouldn't really want to promote it because they're not able to make money from the expensive drugs that people or patients can consume. So I think there's a materialism and commercialism at play in downplaying the significance of spiritual development of the people. And I do want to emphasize that we should be spiritual and follow the teachings of Christ, because actually I did not believe anything written in the Bible before I read this book. But after I read into this book, I believed in Jesus and Christ. I believed in following the teachings of Christ, because I think that's the right way to live a more spiritual life. Because at the end of the world, you cannot really take away any of the material wealth that you accumulated. You're going to take away the experience, the spiritual lessons that you accumulated in this lifetime, and then to actually to progress to your next journey. I think it's important to realize that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. So when the creator actually is says in the book, there's a creator that created everything in the universe, like the planets, the stars, animals, plants, and human beings. But when the creator created human beings, it actually inserted a tiny portion of itself to each one of us. So the creator, being a pure spirit, wants to experience what we experience in our physical bodies. So in that sense, we are part of the creator, and the creator is part of us. It actually says in the book as well. So that's kind of very interesting to me, is that we should look inside for answers when certain things happen. Like if you have questions about the paranormal, if you have questions about how to respond to certain challenges in your life, look inside for answers, because the kingdom of God is within you. You should follow your intuition, your gut feelings, or pray or meditate just to find answers using those simple methods. You should not rely on the media or the politicians or a specific leader. So I think it's important for people to realize that we are human beings and we can connect to the creator without going through an intermediary agency. So that's one of the key messages in the book.
Before I turn it back over to the Padre, why do you think there has been such a rash of just a sudden uptake in the media, especially about UAPs in the last, I'd say the last 10 years, especially, we've seen that. I'm not going to give you any kind of leading question. I think it's part of an organized deception. I don't think that there's any desire to release that. We'll talk that, but I'd like to get your take. Do you agree with me at first? Has there been more things that are happening? I think it's coming from the wrong places. So my cards are on the table. Why do you think, if you think it's happened?
I think if I'm the military defense contractor, I would use this as a way to get more military funding from the government, posing the UFOs or ETs as a threat, so that the government can give me more money, and I would develop more weapons to weaponize ourselves. I think this is, again, the most dangerous activity that we can have on Earth is commercialism or materialism. Money is one of the most important reasons for the recent focus by the media on UFOs and UAPs. But people should realize that if you read the Bible, Old Testament especially, you're going to see a lot of very interesting descriptions that kind of hint at visitors from space. So I think if you really read into the stories of ancient texts, you're going to realize that we have not been alone in the universe. There have been visitors in the past, and also the ETs from time to time intervene and help us directly or indirectly. And I can pose a question to you, like, who do you really think that helped Moses to lead the Hebrews out of Egypt during Exodus, parting the sea and also giving them manas? Who do you really think that's the people who really destroyed the two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah? And and if you really read the New Testament, you're going to read about the star of Bethlehem. And if you see the star of Bethlehem nowadays, you're probably going to see, oh, that's a UAP or UFO. So I think there are a lot of things you can really think about it deeply. Interestingly enough, I'm Chinese, so I'm able to read the ancient astronomical records of China, and I was able to pinpoint the exact date of the birth of Jesus, the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ. I actually wrote an article about it. I can put it in the chat.
Oh, it'd be wonderful, and we'll pass that on. I had many years back a doctor of astronomy who used the same source that you did on the Chinese astronomical. I can't remember the correct name for that record. There was a specific name for it, and he made a very similar conclusion to those important dates, because he believed the way that was described and recorded matched with a number of other cultural records because of the sights that were seen in the sky. So I find it very interesting. Padre, jump in. I didn't mean to run too long on your time, but
No, not at all. This is fascinating. I preached a sermon last Christmas a little bit about the Star of Bethlehem, and I pointed out that people who say that it was planets or something aligning, it doesn't really work, because it says that they were following the star, and if they originated, as is the assumption, in what is now Iran or Persia back then, and we're moving in an eastward direction, well, they're looking at something that's in the sky, and you would think that as they got closer to it, it would go higher up in the sky. And it says that this thing went before them, and then it led them first to Jerusalem. That's where they had their contact with King Herod. There were several Herods in the Bible, but that particularly one, Herod the Great, known for his architecture and also his nasty temper and a really gross way that he died. He's the one who killed the baby infants in Bethlehem. But when the Magi who were there inquired as to where he was, and they had a discussion and so forth, when they left, then it reappeared to them, and it was over Bethlehem. Well, Bethlehem is only, I think, maybe 6-7 miles from Jerusalem. It's an easy walk in a couple of hours. And so, for them to say, oh, look, it's over Bethlehem, it has to be a lower atmosphere phenomenon for them to say, okay, now we have to go over there. And then as they got closer to Bethlehem, it would, so that'd be right over the place where Jesus was. But people who say that it's stars or planets lining up, I don't think really that works aligned with the text. Okay, now I want to talk a bit about the book if we can, and this is just kind of a high level summary as I see it from for the people who may have joined late or haven't read the book. This is a first person narrative by a Frenchman named, is it Michel Desmarquet? Is that how you say that?
Yes.
Okay. And it's written in he claims to have been taken aboard a ship in 1987
Yes.
during the night. He's an abductee, we would say, in Australia. and he's drawn outside by a strange light, and he meets a being called, is it Teo? Is that how you say that?
Tao.
Tao, a tall female being who communicates with him telepathically. So he's taken then aboard to a spherical spacecraft with hyperlight capabilities, so it can go faster than the speed of light. And apparently it does something with time, so that even though he's away for, I think it was 6 days, time on Earth doesn't pass while he's away. And
Well, he actually left for 9 days or 10 days. He
Okay.
disappeared for 10 days on Earth.
okay, so it was a little longer than I thought then.
Yeah.
During this time, this being Tao is explaining to him various things about observations they've been making of Earth over the years. They do a little side tour to a planet that was destroyed by a nuclear war, and there's some strange beings there. There's a discussion about the material and immaterial construction of humans and their role as let me see, I wrote it down, Thiaoubans, is that how you would say them?
Yes,
Thiaoubans?
Thiaoubans, yes.
Cubans.
As guardians who have occasionally intervened on Earth through its history to give spiritual and technological guidance, but never to really take over or dominate. They appear to be a benevolent race. And their home planet that he gets to visit is a paradise. He learns that they're very spiritually, metaphysically advanced, as well as technologically advanced. They use anti-gravity to travel, and they have a unique and very intimate relationship with their creator. And he's shown a bunch of records. He's shown what they told him was the true mission of Jesus, Buddha, and other prophets from religions around the world. They say that when we die, we are reincarnated. And now I had read the four areas of warning to be destruction of the environment, moral decay, misuse of nuclear energy, and material greed. I didn't quite get the politics and the journalism, though we might be able to lump them under moral decay. Did I get that story summarized fairly correctly?
Yeah, the story is basically summarized correctly, except for the 4 dangers. The 4 dangers are very specific.
Okay.
Number 1, money. Number 2, politicians. Number 3, journalists and drugs, hallucinogenic drugs. Number 4, religions.
Okay. So you first took an interest in this, and then you translated it so that it could be distributed. What kind of feedback have you had as a result of publishing the work?
In China, some of the people believe this is a true story, even though it was published as a science fiction in China to get around the censorship there. Actually, a lot of people believe this is the true story of the author. Some people believe that this may be a true story, but either it's a true story or a made-up story. The content of the book is good. And a few percentage of the Chinese people believe this is science fiction.
Do you yourself believe it to be a literal story, or do you believe that there are elements of it that are metaphors or parables or fables within it? What do you think?
I think the book has a lot of specific facts that I was able to verify and prove after I read the book. Very specific facts. So I think I tend to believe that this is a true story, a personal experience of the author.
Now, this particular planet that he said that he was taken to, do we know where that is? Where was it within our solar system?
No, it's not within our solar system, but it's within our Milky Way galaxy.
Okay.
It's going to take a lot of light years to travel.
which they were able to do, obviously, in a very short period of time.
Yes.
Were they able to, how did they do that? What kind of technology did they use?
So they use a form of teleportation. So once they enter into deep space, they teleported themselves into another location in deep space. And then they traveled at the speed a few times faster than the speed of light to their destination. So they have to teleport in deep space. They say that it's because otherwise their spacecraft would have been exploded. So this is a very technical aspect in which Michel, the author, did not understand.
Okay. Do you understand it? Can you explain it?
Well, I think the importance of the book is not in the technical knowledge of the ETs. It's more about the spiritual knowledge, how we should really follow the spiritual teachings of Christ. And also, I want to make one correction. The spiritual masters, like the Buddha, was an earthling, but Christ, Jesus was an earthling as well. Moses was too, but Christ is not, because he was able to remember all the knowledge to perform miracles. If you read the Bible, you're going to see that Moses did not or could not perform miracles. And the young Jesus, before he began preaching, at least there's no record of him performing miracles. But Christ, on the other hand, is someone who is so special that in order to convince people of his teachings, he performed miracles. Because people at that time, as well as people nowadays, are highly skeptical. So unless someone like Christ could perform miracles, his teachings would not have been believed by the people at that time. So this is the whole reason they had to have Christ come to us to perform the miracles so that his teachings could be remembered and followed.
The reason that Jesus came, though, was to provide atonement for our sins and offer himself as a sacrifice. And then he conquered death by rising again. Certainly the miracles add credibility to his ministry and what he's saying. And let's not forget that he himself said that all of the commandments and rules laid out in the Old Testament could be summarized in just two things. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And as long as you're doing those two things, you're fulfilling the will of God. And you're also enhancing life on earth, because if you're treating everybody the way you want to be treated, well, we should be able to all get behind that, shouldn't we?
This is the true teachings of Christ, and people really should follow that. There's one thing, though, is that about I would suggest people to read the book, because I'm not going to elaborate a little bit further because, well, maybe I'll do that. Well, the book explains why the Hebrews were the chosen people. If you look at the Jewish people nowadays, you're going to see that they're highly successful in whatever they do. They account only for about 0.3% of the world population, yet they have 22% of the Nobel Prize winners are Jewish people. There's a reason for that, and the book explains the reason and why they were chosen by God or the people who came to us. So I think the book has a lot of details, and some people may ask, why do you believe so much in the book? The devil is in the details. If you read into the book, you're going to see that, for example, it talks about the disinfection process that the ETs used when the author was taken into the spacecraft. They used yellow light and blue light for the disinfection process. If you do research, you're going to see that Harvard Medical School has a research paper on the antibacterial, antiviral effects of certain wavelengths of blue light. And there's also another paper on the antibacterial effect of yellow light. And also the book talks about the color pink will make people to lose about 15 to 30% of muscle strength. If you do research, you can find that research paper. It turns out that there's a football coach in the University of Iowa, Coach Hayden. he painted the locker room walls of the visiting teams into pink color, and he never lost a home game. So I think if people do a lot of research, they're going to find a lot of details that can be verified. If you think about that, a farmer in Australia who never had such education, how would he have known all this? The book also talks about the plate tectonics, the drifting or shifting of continents over time. It describes like New Zealand connected with Australia in the ancient times, and also Antarctica being in a mild climate because Antarctica wasn't in the South Pole as nowadays that it is in. So the book actually has a lot of details that people can verify, and those are just some of the examples. There are far more examples than the time allows for today.
Commander?
We had a question that came up in the chat room. I'm going to summarize it a little bit. And I think you've kind of answered it. Your conclusion is that the experience of the author is verified by the independent verification of facts, that you have found things to back up what has been brought on his experiences and what he recorded from that.
Well, for one thing, the author did not make a lot of money for selling this book.
Right.
This book can be found online free of charge, actually. Just download it for free. And actually, he was very disappointed when he saw me because he wasn't very enthusiastic. He was actually pretty depressed when he lived in Vietnam. He was very cynical to how the world was going at that time. And he passed away in 2018, and he's just a regular person. And a lot of people ask him why did they choose him, and it's actually explained in the book. He was a man of action. He didn't have any preconceived beliefs or notions. He was just like a blank piece of paper to write on. If you were to take a ufologist or a physicist or a politician to their planet, then when they come back, they would add a lot of their own belief systems into the book. And one of the most important reasons is that Michel actually had 80 past lives already before he went on the journey. And this is one of the reasons they took him, so that he could survive for 9 days on the planet. I know the concept of reincarnation is not talked about among the Christians or other beliefs.
Well, in most Christian, you're correct. In most Christian religions, I have had people explain to me they think there's vague reference to the possibility of it, but it's not a practice that or a concept that we, as a Christian, that we endorse or accept.
But I would encourage people to have an open mind, because we should really respect science. If you read the research papers done by Dr. Ian Stevenson, who actually studied 3,000 children who have past life memories, and he actually published a paper on the possibility of reincarnation. So I think we should respect the research results of Dr. Stevenson, Dr. Brian Weiss, Dr. Michael Newton, and Dr. Raymond Moody. So I think religion is one thing, spirituality is another thing, but at the same time, we should also respect science.
So I've studied some of the doctors that you spoke about, and I had a guest when I had a previous show that had done extensive research on a young boy who had, for all accounts, it appears that he had a past life, or he had a shared soul kind of experience with a naval aviator that died during World War II. The kinds of things that he talked about and reported, his father went on a quest to prove that this was wrong. and the kinds of things that this young man came up with turned his father into a bit of a historian. He was able to connect with a number of people that recognized the things that this young boy who, had never been in an airplane and all those kinds of things could talk about. They did not change their belief, but they know that something happened there. And I'll let Dan get a word on this as we come up to our first break. I am one that's very careful not to put any limitations on what God is capable of doing, or what is cast in this universe. But one of the areas that I just fall back on, I'm sure it's possible, because with Christ all things are possible. I have no way to go past the point of what I have studied and know in the Bible that I read. That is just nothing that's covered. Doesn't mean that it's not possible, because I won't put a limit on what God has. And I agree. I don't have a great opinion of religion, because religion, like AI and just about everything else, is man-made, and it's flawed. And this is where we get into a lot of trouble. So let me turn it over to the expert for our last couple of minutes before we head up to the break. And we remind everybody, the greatest audience on the planet. Join us on the backside. I have a couple more. We're going to get out of this area. I have a couple more hard technical things I want to talk with Samuel in the second hour. Go ahead, Padre.
The Christian objections to reincarnation, as we understand it, for instance, there's a passage in Hebrews chapter 9, verse 27. It says, it is appointed unto a man once to die, and then the judgment. You get one shot, and then that determines your relationship with God and where you will spend eternity. Jesus himself, when he was being killed, there was a man beside him who said, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus said to him, verily I say to you, this day you will be with me in paradise. He didn't say, this day you will find yourself coming back as a dung beetle, pushing things up a hill. And then there's additional passages. There's a parable that Jesus told, where he tells about a rich man and a poor man. And I'll condense in here, the poor man was a beggar outside the mansion of the rich man. Poor man dies, and he's taken into paradise, which in the Jewish term is called the bosom of Abraham. And the other man finds himself in hell. And the man who's in hell, the rich man who was neglecting his neighbor there, is begging for a second chance. And Abraham in this story says, nope, you get one shot and that's it. And they have the scriptures to guide them. So that's all there is. So that's an objection I have to reincarnation. Now, I mean no disrespect by that. I'm just saying that's the biblical perspective on it and the Christian statement on it. That said, there are things that happen that I can't explain. The story that Cobra just said about, this boy who seems to be able to recall things from a past life.
And it actually went away. It's called Soul Survivor, if anybody's interested in the book. It's an amazingly interesting book. A lot of stuff online about it. And it went away as it got older. It seemed like it was settled, like there was a joining of the two souls, which is something, again, in the world, is talked about in many cultures globally, where you have souls that are still present. So,
well, and as we've discussed before, Commander and Samuel, one of our conversations not that long ago was, we think that there are points in human history where such a dramatic change in technology occurs that it had to have come from an external source. Now, back before the Middle Ages, the word inspiration was used, meaning this person is under the influence of a spirit or a guide. And in those days, of course, with the one church, it was referred to as the Holy Spirit. But I think that we do have to be open to, at certain points in history, these giant leaps of technology. I mean, just look at what happened from the beginning of World War II to the end. And the Bible says there's a spiritual war going on where we have good versus evil happening all around us, that I could certainly see unseen forces working behind the scenes, backing certain leaders on earth. And there's a biblical reference to that in the book of Daniel. But no, I'm open to there being these interventions by beings that we can't see or appear in some other form to help us along, or those who want to destroy us. And I think there are malevolent entities that want to destroy us, going against that. So that's my perspective on it. I know we're up against a break here. You have any thoughts on that, Samuel?
Well, if you really want to learn about the other opposing force, then I think maybe you should check out the other book that I translated from German to English, the 334 Lies, LIES. That's the autobiography of the former highest degree chair of a secret society that was founded in Germany. That book talks about what the secret society did in order to manipulate the minds of the people, including politicians and business leaders, in a way that people would also think that book is to be a science fiction, because it talks about the psychic abilities and the powers that they have to see the past and to predict the future and to really control people's minds using a specific form of astrology and numerology. And I want to bring people's attention that if you really look at the Illuminati card game, you're going to see the card game really did, in fact, predict certain events that happened after the card game was published or sold, like the 9/11 event, the COVID pandemic, Princess Diana, and things like that. There are a lot of psychic abilities that the high degree members of that secret society had in order to do that. But I do echo what you mentioned, that there are forces at play that we are probably not understand yet. We are not able to really realize that the two parties are really manipulated by the same group of people. So I think there are a lot of further studies that people can investigate. For example, the book The Committee of 300 by Dr. John Coleman is one of the books that I recommend people to read.
Excellent. Our guest, Samuel Chong, UAP Crossfire. We're going to grab our break. And on the backside, we're going to pick up what I consider one of the more interesting and well-placed conversations we've had on the show. See you on the clip.
seats, cosmic explorers. KGRA Digital Broadcasting, the unrivaled #1 source for raw, uncensored paranormal and UFO talk radio, has just unleashed a sizzling online merch store. Stay cosmic on the move with accessories, rugged phone cases, vibrant yoga mats, and notebooks perfect for jotting down UFO sightings. Ignite your obsession with the unexplained through bold, exclusive gear that demands attention. Kicking off with the Supernova, the store launches 2 heart-pounding collections, KGRA Digital Broadcasting and Bishop James Long. Every item you grab helps power the network and its groundbreaking shows. Stand with the truth seekers, act fast, score your stellar swag, and join the uprising today.
So you don't care about his life. You just care about covering up your little top secret stuff going on. Meanwhile, this man's dying. How dare you put these people in the military to defend us, and then when they come out, you just kick them to the curb.
MUFON is the voice of thousands of like-minded people who want to see change. We speak up against UFO secrecy. We engage governments and agencies around the world on the topic. We share information with the public through our journal, website, newsletter, social media, and even our own TV channel. When you join MUFON, you add your voice to the cause. Few things are more important in our time than understanding the UFO question. Join MUFON. Find your friends.
Welcome back to UAP Crossfire on KGR Radio, KGR Radio DB. My co-host Dan, the Padre Carlson, our very special guest Samuel Chong. There was a couple of questions in the chat room asking where Don and Chris are. Chris was not able to make the show tonight. He had some other things that he had to attend to, and Don's not feeling well, and let us know a little bit earlier they did. So obviously, our prayers and support for their recovery and success at what they're engaging in. Another interesting point that was brought up, Kentucky Skywatcher and we've chatted a little bit by email. He brought up something that came right to mind because I had a fairly unique experience with this. And he talked about that General Patton, the famous World War II general, believed, and he was I would say, a verdant Christian, read the Bible a lot, but he believed in reincarnation. He believed that he had been reincarnated a number of times, and the uncanny ability to talk about activities that he had participated when he was a soldier in different armies through time. And the only reason I was familiar with that, because when I was a young guy in junior high and high school, in the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts, his granddaughter would sometimes come to our high school and speak. And that's one of the things that she explained about her famous grandfather. So interesting take on that. And as I said, I like the discussion on it. And I really enjoy the difference as we pull the layers off different things on that. Now, what I wanted to drive towards, Samuel talked in some of his writings, in some of the ahead preparing for the show, that there may be good reverse engineering going on happening around the world. But you don't really have a lot of in depth from your experience with the author in the book. We don't have a really good indication when he was with his travels that we had people reverse engineering. Is that correct, Samuel?
That's right. What I really wanted to bring out is that currently people have been focusing on reverse engineering the crashed UFOs or UAPs. Like the attention is all on the witnesses who testified in the Congress about the crashed UFOs. But you have to realize that there are different kinds of ETs. Sure. There are ETs whose spacecraft will never crash on Earth because they are far more advanced than the ones whose UFOs crashed here. I think we should learn from the masters, especially learn from the ones who have been watching over us, who have been the watchers. And I want to illustrate that because I believe personally that the book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, is a modern version of the book of Enoch. If you know the scriptures, you're going to know that Enoch was taken by God. And then there's a book of Enoch. When Michel Desmarquet read the book of Enoch after he came back, he was so shocked because a lot of the descriptions in the book of Enoch match what he saw on the planet Thiaoouba, like the Crystal Palace and things like that. So if you really want to learn from the masters, if you really learn from the ETs who are so highly advanced, you should read the book, Thiaoouba Prophecy. It has a lot of explanations on the process of reincarnation, the process, the meanings of life. And actually, I want to elaborate a little bit more. So when we pass, when we die physically, our astral body leaves the physical body. And then we are going to go through this kind of evaluation process or judgment. Not by, I mean, we can say it's by God because God is part of us and we are part of God, the creator. It's mostly an evaluation of our own because everything we did in the lifetime will be shown to us holographically, just like a film. So you're going to be able to feel all the different feelings and pains and happiness of the people after you did certain acts. If you hit a person, you're going to feel the pain of the other person. So it's a very unique experience that a lot of NDE experiencers have described, this kind of evaluation process. And then you're going to realize that everything is about love and about compassion. And you're going to find out that the things that you did incorrectly in this lifetime. Then you're going to decide or accept the spiritual lessons you're going to learn in the next lifetime. So a lot of people, like as a young Christian myself, I mean, when I was reading the Bible, I had a question. If, for example, Hitler, before he died, after killing so many Jewish people, that he accepted Christ as his savior, and then truly believed in everything that the Bible says, and would he go to heaven or paradise, or would he go to hell? The answer actually is given in the book, Thiaoouba Prophecy. He will go through this kind of self-evaluation process with a judgment, and then he is able to feel the pains of the Jewish people he killed. And then he is going to feel very sorrowful. And then he's going to decide what kind of spiritual lessons he's going to learn in the next lifetime. So the process goes, it's a gradual process. One will go through this process and then move up the ladder. And then eventually go to what the paradise is like. So it's like a gradual process that we have to go through. On the other hand, if you do follow all the teachings of Christ, if you do follow all the lessons in the Bible strictly without any mistakes, then you're going to go to the paradise directly, like without going through all or the processes. However, we all make mistakes in our lives. So we have to relearn the spiritual lessons we need to learn.
All right, I'm going to be very respectful. It obviously has a very strong Hindu kind of explanation there. So, and this is not to be a trick question. I'm not trying to dismiss. I am not the least bit offended by anything that you've said. So the beings that brought to the planet that appears to be paradise, are they in a physical state or are they in a spiritual state?
Well, it's a very good question.
So what I'm saying, if you die on that planet, are you going through the same process there in that perfect paradise planet, or do you just hang out?
It depends on whether you're inhabitant on the planet or inhabitant of Earth. For example, if the author, a person who lived his life on Earth, dies on the planet Thiaoouba, then he would have to come back to Earth when he reincarnates. However, if the inhabitant of the planet Thiaoouba, well, they don't die, first of all, because they're highly advanced. They can regenerate their body cells and tissues, but they live physically on the planet. However,
well,
on the other hand,
I don't mean to interrupt you, Samuel, but that it really describes what we were supposed to be in the Garden of Eden before we had our fall from grace and we got ourselves into some trouble here on Earth. So they are living on the planet in a state, it seems to be, of grace, the way you're describing it, as it's been described. And they do they get to choose then when they get tired of regenerating and go to heaven or that plane?
well, they can choose to join or rejoin the great ether, the great spirit, or the creator. So there are 7 masters on the planet. They have a hard time keeping in their physical form because they can join the great ether at any time if they wish to. So God is, I think most Catholics believe that God has no face because it's a pure spirit. So this is why a lot of people, when they read the Bible, kind of mixed up God, the creator, which is a pure spirit, and the angels of God, or the ETs or the Thiaoubans. I think there are 2 kind of different concepts that people have to distinguish. One is the creator that created everything, which is a pure spirit. One doesn't have a face. And the other is a physical being, like the angels of God, who came to Earth and kind of helped us to develop our spirituality.
Padre, jump in, please. And remember, we are supposed to kind of drift back to the UAP part. I did start out talking about the recovery and the reverse engineering, and I agree. Samuel and I are in agreement that there's a lot of things that are driving that. I also think there's a lot of folks that are troubled because they can't figure out how to make things work and to go with that. And I do have a follow-up question to all that when you're done. Go ahead, Padre, please.
So, Samuel, when we think about what these beings have imparted and shared in the book, are you optimistic for our planet? I mean, are we going to be able to get there?
It depends on our actions. The title of the book is Thiaoouba Prophecy, but it doesn't have any prophecies in the book. It doesn't say what's going to happen in the future because the future depends on our collective actions. If we follow the teaching of Christ, we are going to have a very bright future. We are going to turn in an examination, which is a perfect score or passing score. However, if we do not follow the teaching of Christ, if we do not follow the teachings of great spiritual masters, then I think we are going to be in deep trouble.
And then what would happen? I mean, if we destroyed our planet and all perished at once, what happens to the souls of all the humans if that were to occur?
Well, if we have a nuclear war, then our physical bodies will die. Our astral bodies will leave our physical body and then go through the next process of reincarnation. And what happens, actually, the book explains in details the process of reincarnation, like forgetting all the things that happened in the past lives when the astral body enters the embryo of the mother's womb, something like that. So there are a lot of specific details that people can read in the book. However, the cycle goes on. But on the other hand, the spirituality of the people will need to be improved for the human species to survive on Earth. So a lot of people ask, why don't the ETs just come and help us directly and by appearing in front of the politicians or the business leaders? God helps those who help themselves. If you are a child, like if you have a son trying to learn the mathematical problem, how to solve it, the wise way is to give him general directions so that he can solve the problem on his own. If you just give him the answer directly, then he would never be able to learn how to solve that problem. Another story is that a biologist, it's probably like a fictional story, a biologist in Mexico sees like a cocoon or a chrysalis in which the butterfly tries to come out of the cocoon. And then out of compassion, the mind, and he opened the cocoon up so the butterfly could come out. The butterfly did come out, but it couldn't fly because it has to go through the struggling process on its own in order to be able to fly. So this is the essence, that we have to go through this kind of struggling process on Earth as a human species in order to survive here.
I am going to jump in real quick for a second there, Padre, just to make a quick add-on metaphor. You spoke about the mathematical problem, the gentle instruction or giving the answer. And I think probably the other category, you should give the answer and then you try to tell them, now you have to show me the work, reverse engineer it. And that may be where we are with some things that we've recovered on this planet. We got the answer, and we can't figure out how to put the calculation together to get the answer that we have, the object that we have.
I think I have to jump in here a little bit. I think there are a lot of technologies that have been suppressed by these special interest groups. For example, the oil companies, what they tried to do was to suppress a technology that can actually power cars using water. If you do research on Stanley Meyer,
sure,
who
talked about for years.
Yes, so that's one example, and there are also other examples of medical inventions that actually can help us to become more healthy. For example, in the 1920s, color therapy or chromotherapy was quite popular.
Sure was.
Using colors to treat different diseases. However, with the invention or discovery of antibiotics, the drug or pharmaceutical companies persuaded the FDA to crack down on what they call the unscientific method of treating certain diseases. So if you do research, actually colors are helpful to us if we incorporate them the right way. Like the green color helps with migraines, headaches, and red color energizes people. And so there are things like that. But the drug companies cannot make money. So it goes back to the great danger of Earth, which is the number one danger is money. So I think there are technologies that people know, and the defense companies do have a lot of discoveries from the reverse engineered UFOs, but they just have not been able to make them public yet.
Go ahead, Padre. I'm going to jump on you again, so that's not fair. Jump in there.
No, I was just going to say, I've had a personal experience with this just in the last couple of weeks. About 10 days ago, I tore my hamstring, and a very painful injury. Anyone who's done it knows that. And I went to my chiropractor, who also treats sports injuries like that. And he had a device that emitted certain wavelengths of light that he pressed against my thigh. And he said that he was shooting photons into the muscle tear because of research, as you've suggested, Samuel, that points to it enhances cellular regeneration and cellular rebuilding. And yeah, I'm pretty skeptical about such things, but I got to tell you, when I get finished with those sessions, I feel so much better. The pain subsides, and I'm now a believer in that. So definitely, I agree. Commander, you were going to make a point.
Well, now that you said that, I could have done the same kind of result for you with Irish whiskey. I would have had you drink some, and I would have rubbed some on the outside of it. That creates a certain kind of photon as well.
Yeah.
So, with that said, do you, Samuel, are you in agreement with myself that we've been wrapped up in, I think I'm almost positive I'm going to see you nod here. We have been wrapped up in a number of lies for many, many years around this particular subject that we talk about each week, but in other parts of it. So I think it's one of the things that's a great flaw of our free will that we have, that we exercise, that we get into these areas. If we have this technology, which I think we do, I think there may be limits to how well we're able to control it, expenses to produce it, but ultimately, I think it comes down to we don't have a group of 7 or 8 spiritual beings that are at the edge of staying in the plane that we are operating in now, or going into the great ether, as you said earlier. We have self-appointed betters who I think are worried, that they have purveyed a lie or this cover-up, and really probably don't know with the types of levels of things that have gone back and forth. You talked about the secret society aspect of things that we know that we're capable of. And then you have others that say, if this gets out, we're not going to have an orderly transition from petroleum to this new energy source. We're not going to be able to maintain the whole world economy will come crashing down around us. There'll be complete, pandemonium. Everything will come to a screeching halt. And I look around on an average day, and I do say this sincerely, thank God that we may actually be on the precipice of something significant for Palestine and Israel, that there may actually be peace coming out of that. And I pray that it happens. With that said, what do you think about my somewhat dark theory that our best and brightest aren't leading us? Well, number one, I don't think that's a real hard leap for anybody to jump on board with me. And number two, there's great concern that because of money, because of media, because of how we have done what we do, we're not able to come out and say what's actually happening. We don't get to live what this book is talking about.
Well, actually, the book gives a solution, which is collective action through nonviolent resistance. If you really think about this world is actually controlled by a small number of people who are the financiers and or members of the secret societies that rely on our labor, our slave labor, in order to profit themselves. If we have a nonviolent strike, if we stop working for them, we will lose very little. They will lose humongously, because for each second that we stop working for them, they will lose like thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars for each second we stop working for them. So we have a lot of power. The people have a lot of power. If you really look at the great revolutions of the world, they all start at the grassroots level. The revolutions in China and elsewhere in the world is all by the power of the people. The politicians really depend on the people in order to remain in power. So the power really lies in the hands of the people. So this is why we have to really provide the mass with the knowledge to act together collectively using nonviolent resistance to rise up against tyrannies in the world, just like what Gandhi did in India and what Dr. Martin Luther King preached.
Padre.
I think that the recent assassination of Charlie Kirk has placed many Americans in a very introspective mood. I've seen it in my community. We're seeing it in the news, and people are open now to the realization something has to change. Something has to be done. And I think that we sometimes forget that every single thing of substance that has happened in human history, every invention, every innovation, every political movement, every revival, each thing began as a single thought in the mind of one person. And when you look at it in that perspective, you recognize the power that we all have individually. And if we all decide we're not going to play the game anymore, and that we're going to treat each other as we want to be treated, there is a real opportunity here for a reformation of societies. But as you've said, Samuel, it has to be global. How do you think we do this?
Well, we have to work together internationally as a global force. It's not just the Americans or the Europeans. It has to be joined by people in China, in Africa, in Japan, in India, Australia, Latin America. Like everyone has to join the force together, because the people who are against us, they don't have the concept of countries or nations. They're just themselves. They have the control for now, and they have members from each country. So it's just that we have to join force one way or another as a collective to do this.
I also want to affirm something that you said earlier, Samuel, when you talked about a review of one's life. Producer Bill, I sent you a slide, an email. I sent it to you too, Cobra, if you want to pop that up, of a book that I'm reading right now by an author called Lee Strobel. And this particular book, it's called Seeing the Supernatural, Investigating Angels, Demons, Mystical Dreams, Near-Death Encounters, and Other Mysteries of the Unseen World. And he interviewed many people who have had these near-death experiences where they've been clinically dead and then they've been brought back to life. And each and every one of them testified that they literally saw their whole lives flash before their eyes. Everything that happened in their earthly life was replayed in an instant, but they were able to perceive it. And that aligns exactly with what you were talking about, these beings showing people their lives. But we had a question from someone in our chat community here. Here's a look at that book by Lee Strobel, Seeing the Supernatural. I'm in the middle of it now, and it's absolutely fascinating. He's a great author. He's done some wonderful work, and
Sure has.
I'm not affiliated with him. I don't get any money for that. But these beings, what is their hope? Why would they want to see Earth succeed?
Because we are all the creations of the Creator, not only people on Earth, but also the ETs. It's just like the people on Earth and the ETs have different roles to play. We are like elementary school students learning the basics. And the advanced ETs in the Bible or in this book, they are like the college professors, our mentors, just helping us to develop our spirituality giving us nudges for us to really move into the right direction. And I think we do have to really be really careful about some of the misinformation by the government. This is why I've been pushing so hard for this book, because it has actually a book of warnings for people on Earth, a book of spirituality, a book to encourage people to follow the teachings of Christ, a book for people to learn what happened in the past and also our future, the possible futures that we may have. In fact, the ETs actually took the author into his past lives and saw what he did. And the ETs actually took him to ancient civilizations. A civilization, for example, that once existed on the continent of Lemuria in the Pacific Ocean, in which there was no money at all. People didn't use money to take things or buy things. They just took whatever they needed from the marketplace, because people were highly spiritual. No one took advantage of each other. And they had a lot of technologies so that they were able to build the structures, the statues on Easter Island. And this is the same technology that the people in the past built the Great Pyramid of Egypt, which is not a tomb for the pharaohs, it's an energy center. So the ETs actually showed the author a lot of the mysteries of the past and also the paranormal. So this is why I think in order to have the knowledge, in order to know what to do and how to respond to the choices for our future, people should be empowered with knowledge from this book and others.
Well, let's fast forward here. Let's say that there is a time in the future when we succeed and we have attained a similar utopia to what these beings have on their home planet. What then? I mean, is there like a galactic union of intelligent races that we would get to be a part of? And what's the super long-term plan? Do we know?
Well, but it's in the book. It says that Earth is a Category 1 planet. It's just like an elementary school for us to learn the basics. When we grow spiritually, when we follow the teachings of Christ strictly, then we are going to elevate ourselves and to move up the ladder to a higher category of planet, like a planet of paradise, like Thiaoouba. And then what happens afterwards is that you can join and rejoin the great ether, because at that point you're going to live forever, if you want to, on that planet of paradise, and you're going to have a different role to play, which is to guide people on lower categories of planets. But you on the planet will live forever in paradise. And then you can decide what to do next, whether to join the Great Spirit or not. And that's actually something detailed in the book. What happens after that, I think that's for us to find out after we get to that point.
You've mentioned this a few times now, join the Great Spirit. Describe that. What is that?
The Great Spirit is immensely powerful. It actually created everything in the universe. The masters on the planet Thiaoouba will be able to join the Great Spirit if they want to, so that their physical bodies will disappear. So they are going to be just like a part of the Great Spirit.
So are they absorbed by this cosmic great consciousness?
Yes.
Okay. And if their essence of who they are is absorbed, then do they become one with this ether great creator? Is that what they're describing?
Yes, this is what they described. And also, we can also communicate with the Great Spirit through our higher selves. by praying, by meditation, or going through like a dream state, like of
Yeah, I talk to God every day. He and I are pretty tight. But this, if you're absorbed into something, and you become a part of that something, wouldn't you lose your individuality? And if that's the case, then how do you know you've made it?
Well, if you join something, you wouldn't lose anything that you bring into this kind of great spirit. You bring in all the memories that you had in the past, great memories, the things that you did correctly, and then when you join, your memories become part of this great spirit, and the great spirit will have all your memories in that sense.
But do you still get to be an individual within the Great Spirit?
You're going to become the great spirit, a part of it.
Oh, but see, a problem I have with that is that's the original lie in the Garden of Eden. They didn't eat the fruit just because it looked nice. They ate the fruit because Satan, when he tempted them, said, "You shall be as gods." The original temptation in the garden was, "You can be gods." And it kind of sounds like that's what this is promoting.
Well, I think what happened in the Garden of Eden was like a parable or analogy of our free will. So it's our free will that causes a lot of trouble for us not to follow the teaching of Christ. So I think it's just a parable. It's not really what happened in the past. And the Bible uses a lot of parables for people to understand certain concepts. For example, if you are to explain to a caveman the dangers of the atomic bomb, you wouldn't be able to explain to the caveman the scientific technicalities. You would use analogies or parables. A fireball, very dangerous, something like that.
Yeah.
Similarly, I think a lot of stories in the Bible are like that. It's a free will that's something we need to be cautious about.
I'm going to jump in here, gentlemen, because I'm going to break the theology hour up just a tiny bit here.
Okay, sorry.
Well, I understand.
Yeah.
Samuel, you made mention that we've had some other species that do not have perfected technology, that they are the reason why we've had some vehicles crash, why we may have recovered technology, ships, so to speak, possibly even physical bodies that they were in at the time. And I have not had a chance to get all the way through the prophecy. Is there any explanation why the people, the entities that are favorable, that have the right message, haven't eliminated or been able to work with those other lesser civilizations on other planets? Why would they jump down the line to come to us? Are they assigned to us? Is there conflict that they're avoiding because of their higher state of capability, their higher state of enlightenment and development?
In essence, they're assigned to watch over us. There are 3 Category 9 planets in our Milky Way galaxy, and Thiaoouba is one of them. And actually, it actually explains some of the events that happen in the Bible. And they have been watching over us throughout history, not just the Hebrews, not
Right.
just the Caucasians or the Chinese or the Australians, but all the people on Earth. They actually had contacted with us when we were highly spiritual in ancient civilizations, like in the continent, on the continent of Lemuria. They had direct contact with us. There are different ETs though in our galaxy. Some of them are not so advanced, such as the Greys, according to the author. The Greys did put implants on some of our people on Earth. But according to the ETs from Thiaoouba, people need not to worry about that because they wouldn't do any harm to us because they've been watching over us against any possible harms caused by other ETs. So there are also different kinds of ETs that have visited Earth as observers, but they all took the role of observers, not intervening, not interfering with our activities, because there's a principle of non-interference, unless they're assigned to watch over us. I think there's a universal law about it. People need to understand that there are different ETs, and all the ETs are created by the same creator.
So, is there an understanding of the demonic aspect that is happening here?
You mean in theology or in the real world?
We have countless extraterrestrial encounters that are not of non-interference, that are of to me it seems, and I'm paraphrasing, and I don't mean any disrespect when I'm going to say this, but you have this higher that has attained top state at the threshold of choice between maintaining some kind of physical presence, physical capability, or entering into the ultimate positive end state. But it also appears that when you have lesser civilizations and other planets, that some of them aren't completely observing the universal rule, and they're getting to come down to the first grader playground and mess around with us and cause problems. And our college professors can't seem to get down here to protect us from it, or they're allowing us because of free will to engage or have these activities, these encounters.
It's just my personal opinion that there are man-made vehicles that can simulate ET abduction experiences, and they can actually cause cattle mutilations.
Mm-hmm.
Those are
so you think that what we have encountered that's on that more negative is
man-made
and part of a more elaborate hoaxing. And I mean that there's obvious validity to that. There has been, over at least the last 80 years, a number of uncovered programs and papers that talk about it. At least once a month it comes up that we hear that we're getting ready for a fake ET event to drive something going on. Post-COVID, at this point, the way the pandemic happened, how it rolled out, what we did to each other in that, the breakdowns into the lines. I can imagine the same people that are pushing the buttons for pharmaceuticals and every other secret society, they made a good note in a notebook saying, yep, if we can just up the ante a little bit, we're able to pull this off. With that said, with a little bit of humor, a little tongue-in-cheek the way I said that, I think it points to an item that you have said, probably with purity equal to what I get from Padre Dan, that if you are focused on the teachings of Jesus Christ, if you are living that kind of philosophy and life, if you are that example, all these other things that can be cooked up, you're going to get through. It may not be pleasant all the time, but you will get through it, and you'll get through it intact to what happens next. We're probably going to have a little bit of a debate on what happens next, but it's a good debate. It's a fun debate. It seems like we're all arguing about how we get to heaven fastest at this point, and I kind of like that. Now I'm going to throw one more piece in, since we are really turning this into the theology hour. And I remind everyone, UAP Crossfire hasn't gone away, but our two of our hosts did make it tonight. Samuel Chong has been a phenomenally good guest and has really provided a lot of very interesting information and experiences in what he's done. Is there hell? Is there a place where you are deprived of what the Creator has set forth?
Well, in my research, I think the concept of hell was actually something that added into the ancient scriptures by the Catholic Church Council meetings. However, if you are someone just like Hitler who killed so many people, in the life review process, you're going to feel the pains of the sufferings and the sufferings of those people you killed. Then you're going to be feeling like in hell. So it's kind of like your own evaluation or judgment that will result in you feeling that you're in hell. It's not something that if you believe in Christ that you will go to heaven. If you don't believe in Christ, you will go to hell. It's not like that. You really have to follow the teachings of Christ. You have to act. You cannot just believe. You have to really act like Christ. So that's the key message in the book and also in the scriptures. However, unfortunately, a lot of the religious organizations distorted the teachings.
You'll never get a disagreement from me on religion because of it being a construct of man. And then that's where it happens. That's why I don't have the greatest feelings for AI and our religion that is forming around it. Padre, jump in, please.
Well, as Samuel was talking, what came to my mind is A Christmas Carol by Dickens and the ghost of Marley who's dragging this chain around. And he explains that the chain is so big because each link is forged by the misdeeds that he did in life. And so when you were describing what would happen to Hitler in the theological framework of the Thiaoubans, that you're kind of making your own hell with the misdeeds. And then getting more back now to UAP, because I think that's in the title of this program. I wanted to ask you, and Commander kind of touched on this earlier, but within the UFO community, there is a perception that not all extraterrestrial beings are meaning us well, that there are some, in fact, that would just as soon see us wiped out and are working to bring us down nefariously. If the Thiaoubans are the good guys, are there races of beings out there that are the bad guys? And are the Thiaoubans at all engaged in keeping them away from us or trying to help us fight them?
Exactly. This is a very good analysis. I think this is what's happening right now. There are ETs who may not have been developed as far advanced as the Thiaoubans or us, but they have been kept away from us because the Thiaoubans are watchers. So they protect us and giving us this kind of unique environment for us to develop our spirituality. And similarly, if we are to explore the universe when we are not ready, they're going to prevent that from happening as well. This is probably one of the reasons we have not been able to have a person land on the moon again in the last 50 years or so, because we are not spiritually ready. It's just like if you see two groups of gorillas fighting among themselves, you wouldn't want to invite them to your beautiful mansion and make a mess because they're not ready to behave in a civilized manner. So this is why I think we are not ready to explore other planets yet. And similarly, the Thiaoubans or other ETs are going to prevent other less spiritually advanced ETs from contaminating us.
Do you know if Michelle, the author of the book, has had any subsequent visits from the Thiaoubans or contact with them? Or do you know of anyone else who has come forward with a claim that they've been in touch with the Thiaoubans?
Well, Michelle had received telepathic messages from the Thiaoubans, one of which was about the grace, the implants of the grace. The other telepathic message was regarding to the chambers beneath the Sphinx. If you do research, you're going to see recently there have been news about the findings of potential chambers beneath the Sphinx, as Edgar Casey also mentioned in his books, that the Hall of Records. And Michelle says that the Thiaoubans told him that when we are ready, there are three chambers, the three chambers can be opened. And once they're opened, everything will be known. So this is what he said. I also want to illustrate this by comparing this book to the book of Enoch. Remember what happened after the book of Enoch was written. 40 to 80 years later, Noah, the great-grandson of Enoch, was told to build an ark. Michel de Marquet, he wrote a book in 1989, got it published in 1993. The event happened in 1987. So what's going to happen afterwards in the future? To answer your question, besides Michel de Marquet, I have not found any credible information regarding contacts of Thiaoubans to any other people in the world.
Don't you find that odd? That
I do.
Yeah, like 8 billion people, only one man gets the communication.
Well, if you look at the Bible, Enoch was the only one in his time taken by Jehovah or the gods.
Fair point.
Yeah, so one is enough. And the book is published widely in China and Taiwan, at least. I think a lot of people will wake up.
Okay. Commander?
Well, I'm going to jump into probably the last aspect. We really only have about 5 minutes. So, Samuel, I want you to keep that in mind as we answer. You make a remark that we have folks that are trying to work on the reverse engineering, but you are talking about because of the book, because of what's happening, there is a large number of Asian people, Chinese people that have this book, and they are now elevating their connection to Thiaoouba, to the Thiaoubans, and it's happening. And I can't think of a better place for this to happen. If you said you tracked the show, I have great distress with the PRC and the government, what's gone on there. And I would imagine after this show and other ones that I've heard you on, because when I was checking, that they're going to want to control that as much as possible. Do you think that the message here is that the reward may not happen in this lifetime, on this plane, in this world, that it's the next, is what many people are realizing? Why we're running around trying to do the reverse engineering? Because you point to superior is the word that comes to mind. I'm not sure it's really the right way to say that. What the book, when you translated it, is doing. And again, no disrespect to anyone here tonight and here listening to the show, but I have heard, and I actually met a person that had the same kind of change post World War II in Japan when they were able to read the New Testament translated into Japanese. And one of those people was one of the lead military planners for the opening of World War II in the Pacific. He was the lead and the planner for the attack at Pearl Harbor. So, and he became a extremely devout Christian because of that. Do you see a similar thing happening there?
Yeah, the book actually did impact a lot of people in China. The book actually tells the Chinese people how to really act together in a nonviolent way to change the government from dictatorship or authoritarian government into a more democratic government form. And it actually described the event that happened. And a lot of Chinese people are shocked that this book was published in China.
Yeah.
And they actually are really, really surprised that the censorship really didn't remove that part of the book. But the one shocking information is that the ETs from Thiaoouba did intervene during World War II. They intervened during World War II. And I just want to leave it to the audience to really check out the book and to see how
Absolutely.
the ETs did it.
So for everyone in the audience, if you do not pick up from picking up the name, just drop me an email. Samuel has been kind enough to send me a link. I will put that link out to anybody on there, and we'll continue to support everybody on that. Coming down to our last minute, Dan, do you have a quick passing thought?
This has been a fascinating discussion, Samuel. Thank you so much for taking your evening and spending it with us here. While we may not agree on absolutely everything, I think that you are an example of a way to be able to agree to disagree and still be civil and have an intelligent conversation. And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I'll echo the same words of the Padre, Samuel. It's been a real treat, and I apologize that I did not have the time leading up to this to really communicate with you better before the show. But we'll be in touch, and I look forward to trying to get together again. It would be fun to pick it up, pull it a little bit away from the UAP part, and just discuss some more of it. And by then, I'll hopefully have gotten through the book completely. And I deeply appreciate your time and taking it. To the greatest audience on the planet, the KGRA DB and all the folks behind it, thank you so much for a very interesting version of UAP Crossfire tonight. And we look forward to seeing you soon next week. And Samuel, Godspeed in all things.